Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's edition of Tech Talk. My name's David, and over the next 40 minutes, you'll be joined by myself and the panelists to talk about technology, but most importantly, the virtual Scout groups and our Leader and Community Hub. If you haven't joined a Microsoft Teams live event before, it's probably a little bit different to the Microsoft Teams meetings that you may have attended in the past, and hopefully you're seeing something that looks a little bit like this. So, in a Teams live event, you can't communicate via video with us. So if you do have a question, just use the question and answer panel in the top right-hand corner. You will be able to see a little icon, a little question mark in the top right-hand corner. And there you'll be able to ask a question by typing it. And our lovely panelists today will try and answer as many questions as possible. We do usually get inundated, and I know that their fingers will be moving as quickly as possible. So if you don't get your question answered tonight, don't worry. There is an FAQ section that is posted on the Scouts New South Wales website collectively. So your answers will be there. Now tonight, of course, I am joined by our office star, Jared Hale, who's going to be assisting me in some of our demonstrations tonight. And this is part 4 of our 4-part series. So if you've been following us from week 1, thanks for following us all the way. And if you have missed one of the previous weeks, don't worry, the videos are posted online, so you can find them on the YouTube channel, but also on the Scouts New South Wales website. So tonight, we're going to recap on the virtual Scout halls and Leader and Committee hubs. We had a lot of questions around file storage, so we'll do a little bit deeper dive and go over that again. Suggested folder structure in the Leader and Committee hub, so we'll show how that might look for your particular group. Jared's going to be helping me collaborate on a budget that I'm going to be putting together for an event tonight. And we've had a lot of questions around copying files into Microsoft Teams. So we're going to show you how to synchronize files to your computer, which I think will be very, very handy. And of course, if you are tuning into week 2, there was some Microsoft Teams updates. And in week 4, there's some updates again. So that's just showing that Microsoft is always changing and updating Teams. So we'll go over that. And for the faint-hearted, for those that are a little bit more tech savvy and are interested in how we produce these events, we're going to show you a little bit on Microsoft Teams live meetings. So that's this style of presentation that you might think about using for something like an ARP, or a presentation style where you're delivering content as opposed to an interactive meeting. So without further ado, we've got the virtual Scout halls and we've got the Leader and Committee hub. Now we've had a bunch of questions. Where do I put my files? Where, what, who, when? Really simple. If your files are related to the youth program, it lives in Microsoft Teams. If your files are more related to adult content, so that might be records, correspondence, and we'll dive into that a little bit later on, it lives in SharePoint or the Leader and Committee hub. It really is that simple. So when we say associated with the youth program, that might be things like past program resources or past programs, those sorts of things. They should also live in the Teams area. And with the Leader and Committee hub, we've actually gone through and worked out some suggested file structures for you. So we've had a look at those again tonight. So we introduced the Leader and Committee hub last week, and we also had a lot of questions around permissions. So we decided to make it nice and simple for you. There's 3 areas that when your Leader and Committee hub gets released that you will see to be able to store files. The confidential folder, we are suggesting that files that only the group leader should have access to should be stored there. So the confidential file, as per Scout link, will be attached or associated with the group leader, assistant group leader, or leader in charge. You'll also have a group committee folder. The group committee folder can be accessed by the group leader, assistant group leader, leader in charge, but also the group committee. So that's the chair, secretary, and treasurer, as outlined in Scout link. So just remember that those permissions are driven by Scout link. So think about that as your executive team of your group. Finally, the secure area is your group leaders, assistant group leader, leader in charge, and any of the section leaders or trainee leaders. So what we might do is I might bring up my Microsoft Teams now, just by sharing my screen. Just bear with me for a minute. And we might have a look at how that might look. So just remember last week in the Leader and Committee Hub, I actually attached it to Microsoft Teams. And I'll show you how that breaks out a little bit later on. So if you missed last week's session, the Leader and Committee Hub is only accessible by the leaders and the group committee members of your Scout group. There are some useful resources as far as links. So I find it really handy to be able to use the Leader and Committee Hub just to go to all of the resources that are online. You can see an activity feed, which is documents that we've uploaded. You can see here, we've got a secure section. So just remembering the secure section is the section that your group leader and section leaders of your group can have access to. So that's not the group committee. So you might have some completed E1 forms, say some blank, completed E1 forms. There might be some healthcare plans of youth members that need to be accessible, and the leaders may have some meeting notes that they want to store. Again, these are just recommendations. Each group might be different. The group committee, remembering the group committee is made up of your group leader and those 3 office bearers. So they might want to store things like accounts, asset management, so details on the hall, that sort of stuff. Group committee minutes, compliance records. So the compliance records might be the fire extinguishers need to be checked every 12 months. Those sorts of things. So they'll leave you certificates and whatnot. Some correspondence. There might be some information around fundraising, grant applications that the group committee is working on, and just a general folder. Again, just recommendations for your group, as each group is a little bit different. And finally, if I can just scroll down a little bit more, the confidential area. Now remember, the confidential area is only accessible by your group leader. So the group leader will be working with their leaders on adult development plans, potentially. They might want to have an area to archive some documents and some correspondence. From time to time, some groups will get custody documents and notifications, and these need to be stored. And also, some group leaders do like to store historical numbers, for example, on census records, those sorts of things, to see how their groups are performing. So they might want to store some Excel spreadsheets in there. And historically, you'll get some youth application forms as well, although they are online. But I know that some leaders, like to store what comes back to them, so you might want to store them in there. So here are a few areas. As you can see, the 3 areas, no youth program content is actually stored in here. Remembering that our virtual Scout group, which is over here, we can see we've got some files in here, and all of those sorts of things are related to the program. So hopefully that does make a little bit more sense in what we're doing. What I might want to do now is, we've had a lot of questions on how do I copy files in and synchronize, and using the Teams interface is a little bit hard. So we've got a good answer for you on that one. as you can see, when you go into the files area of Teams, you have this little sync button. So on your laptop in Teams, you click on the sync button, it will hopefully connect. And here we go. So it comes up, set up OneDrive. And you can see here that I've got my account credentials in there. So I'm just going to sign in. I'm going to pop in a password. Hopefully I can remember it. And as you can see here, your OneDrive folder is now being set up. I'm going to hit next, 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 and I don't want it to go on the laptop, so on my mobile rather. So I'm going to open my OneDrive folder. And just bear with me for a minute. We've got a couple of screens here. So what we can see here, if I just bring this up, I can see my standard Windows Explorer. I've got lots of OneDrive and Teams synchronization accounts, but we can see here that I've got program files. If I go back to Teams, you can see here program files, unit count files, and unit member files. So bring this back up again, you can see that those files exist. Now, for those that are worried about, I guess, is it going to take up space on my computer or etc., etc. This is optional, so you don't have to do this. You can work with your files in Teams, but Teams is actually quite clever in the way that it works with files. So you can see here the status is cloud. So what that means is that whilst I've synchronized this folder structure, it actually hasn't copied anything to my computer. So what I might do is double click on the program files, and I'll just double click on the program files over here. You can see here, we might just jump into past term programs, and we've got some files in here, and I'll just jump back into past term programs. I want to see if I can snap this. Here we go, that might be a bit easier. There we go. So you can see here, all my files are here and all my files are here. What I might do is I can actually open these up, and because they're in the cloud, I'll have to be connected to the internet. You can see here it is downloading that file, and it is opening up Word locally, and there's my file there. Okay. So you can now see that that particular file has a green tick to it. That actually means it's downloaded to my computer. If you haven't used that file in a while, it'll actually send it back up to the, delete it off the local machine, and it'll come back as a cloud. So I know in my personal experience, when running the AusVenture program, we have well over 1 terabyte of information in Microsoft Teams. But I synchronize it back to my local laptop, which only has 1/4 of that space. But because it only synchronizes and it only downloads the files that I'm using, it doesn't actually fill up my computer. So for those people that have been, I guess, a little bit concerned, or they've asked a few questions around, what do I, how do I copy up my files a little bit easier? I guess of if you synchronize your files, you can, essentially drag and drop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a bunch of files, into that folder. And as you can see here, as they're copying in, they've got the little logo there, a round circle thing. It's very technical of me. And then they've got green arrows. So what we'll do is we'll come over to here, go back up to program files, and there we can see they're all copied in. So for the people at home that are struggling to maybe, they really want to use Teams, they've got a lot of files on their local computer and they want to share that with everybody. Our suggestion, or one way to make it easy for you, is you could potentially synchronize those files so that way you can use the Teams files without actually having to log into Teams each time. But also you can drag and drop and potentially just drag and drop and synchronize those files in there. So what I might do now is show the collaboration or working on a file together. So just bear with me for a minute. I'm just going to create a budget. And that budget is just not one I prepared earlier, unfortunately. And I'm going to save this here. Okay. Just asking me to log in, so just bear with me for a minute. All right, so I've just opened up Excel. It's asked me to log in because I'm just about to save this file into that synchronized area. Might just close that, make that full size again. Jared, have we got you on the line there, mate?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. So what I'm going to need some help with this. Jared, I'm going to create a plan, an event budget, and that budget, hopefully, you can just see that here. So I'll just create it. Yep. So are you able to open that event budget for me, please?
Okay, I'll share my screen as I find it.
Yeah.
Okay, bear with me. All right, that's my screen. Okay. It's in the Venturers.
Yeah.
Okay, go to the files. Okay, which folder was it in?
If you just want to hit
Refresh.
refresh. Yep, it's just refreshing.
All right. Good old Australian NBN.
Yeah.
Lightning fast. I'll edit this part out, it'll be fine.
That's all right.
Okay, any second now. I reckon I'll just send a posted letter to Microsoft. That might get some responses faster. Yeah, there we go. All right, I can see the event budget. Yeah.
Excellent. So if you just want to open up the event budget for me.
Sure.
Now I've also got this open locally. and there's a couple of tabs in this one. There we go. So are you able to put in maybe $1,000 for the equipment, please?
Yeah, sure. Oh, actually, I know a guy. I can get it for 800. So
no worries.
800. I'm always out on the lookout for a bargain. You know me. Right, there we go.
I found some tables and chairs. So you can see here, just on Jared's screen, it looks like I've come up as, is it purple? And you've got a blue outline. So you can see that we're actually working on the document together. I'm going to put $40 for balloons. So you can see here that any document, Microsoft document that's stored in Teams, we can work on together. Now, there was a question in a previous week asking, can people that are invited into your team see the document section and collaborate? The answer is yes, for the online versions of Office. So as you can see right here that Jared's demonstrating, you don't need to install anything to use this feature. We also had another question in a previous week. Do you need to have an installed copy of Office to use Microsoft Teams, or the issued email address? And again, the answer is no. So you can use the online versions for that as well. So you don't need to have anything installed, nor do you need to download or install anything either. So
also, when you're in with View, up here there's the Open in Desktop App button, and that will try and open up this document in your native Excel. And that may not always work because this version of Office is only licensed for the online version. So you may, if your other Office version isn't licensed, you may run into some issues. So it's always better to do it in the on the online version.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the Scouts issued email address, our Leader and Committee Hub, and virtual Scout groups in Microsoft Teams, you have all the tools that you need to be able to create and work on documents together. It's as simple as just creating the document as we saw, and you can start working on that document with multiple people, and that will also be exactly the same in the Leader and Committee Hub as well. So it's just that same process. And if Jared just wants to click on, I was just about to say, if you wanted to just click off that and and hit the new, just the little plus. You can select, Word documents, PowerPoint, etc., etc. So it's quite easy to create a new document, and we can start working on it together. Maybe if you want to create a Word document, and then we can show what that experience looks like as well. So I'll jump into my Teams, and actually I'll just jump into my synchronized folder. And I can see a test document. I'm going to download, well, it's starting to download that for me so I can use it. Now, because I'm using a desktop version, it always asks me to sign in, so just bear with me for a minute. Okay, so I'm signed in, and
waiting for you.
It is always like that, isn't it?
This is also a really rudimentary, prehistoric way of doing instant messaging. I can sit in it. We can both sit in a document and write letters to each other. I know there's a chat option, but hey, if you want to be different.
Yeah, it's all right. Just it's not letting me. Just my internet is playing up. So here we go. I'm in. And you can see there, same sort of thing. You can see on the screen, I'm typing. Now I can see that Jared's also in that document. And again, we're collaborating and sharing. And you can see that I've got my initials there. Very good. All right, so.
Just trying to see if this works. You never know.
We might jump out of that now. So, let's go back to sharing the screen. Share. And two. So we've gone over, I guess, where you should be storing your files. So anything program related in virtual Scout groups or Scout halls, and anything that's, I guess, related to leader files is in the leader and committee hub. I'll just very quickly show you the, sorry, my apologies. Now, what I wanted to talk to you about tonight was some new features in Microsoft Teams. So it was announced overnight that currently we have a 3x3 or 9 video screens available through Teams. Very soon, there will be up to 49. So whereas the initial reports from Microsoft is over the next 3 months, so you will be able to see up to 49 lovely faces on your Microsoft Teams meetings in the coming months. We've also had a lot of questions around custom backgrounds. So it's quite easy to change a custom background. We will post the link and these backgrounds on the Scouts New South Wales website. But if you open up a file explorer for a Windows 10 machine and copy in that address, so that's the app data Microsoft Teams backgrounds uploads, what you'll get is this. So we'll change it. The little percentage signs actually change it to a relative path for you. But what you'll get is a folder where you can actually upload your own custom backgrounds. So as you can see here, I've got a couple of Scout ones, got a work one, and of course I've got a Mario Kart one there as well, just for a little bit of fun. So this is how, I'll just demonstrate that. You can see here the app data, Microsoft Teams, backgrounds, uploads, hit enter, and this is the folder you get. So as you can see, most of them are a 16:9 format. So just try and pick a nice high resolution image, and then you can select that as your custom background. Now, for those people who weren't part of week 1, your custom backgrounds are fairly easy to set. All you need to do, if I find the right screen, all you need to do is, I've lost it now, it's all right. All you need to do is when you're in a Teams meeting, just wriggle your mouse, you'll get the 3 buttons, just click on the 3 dots, and there will be a manage your background option there. So that's all you need to do for that particular one, and you'll be able to choose your custom background. So that's pretty exciting, and that, I believe, is already up on the Zendesk as far as those Scout backgrounds. So if you want the Scout backgrounds, they're already there available for us. So before we go into Microsoft Teams and live events, Lewis, have we got any questions from our audience tonight that that we might want to answer?
Yeah, so we've got a question around calendars. Can you show us how the calendar function works?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so in particular, we last time showed you the calendar feature here. And as far as meetings are concerned, you can create a new meeting. And I'm going to call it test. We can add attendees, which is optional. I'm going to add you, Lewis, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Go for it.
Yeah. Let's select a time. We'll do it tomorrow. Now we can add a channel. Now, if it's a section meeting, that sort of thing, we can go and add it to a channel, and we can pop in an agenda.
And
now,
Dave, why would we add it to a channel?
Yeah, so the reason why we add it to a channel is for those people who've got access to that channel, it shows up in the posts. So I'll show you that in a moment. The other thing as well is when you add people in here or send them a calendar invite, and it'll also appear in their calendar. So that's also useful to do that as well. So we might just hit send. So you can see here, I've got a test. That's that appointment. Takes a little while to sync up. I don't think we said some nice words to the demo gods tonight. Everything seems to be running a little bit slow. You can see here, we go into the posts. You can see that I've scheduled a meeting. We've called it test, and when it comes time, I can come and join that meeting. But because I'm the meeting organizer, I can go and view the meeting details from here as well. And I've invited Lewis, and optional because Susan's part of that particular channel group, or channel and team. Then we've been joined. When you create a Microsoft Teams meeting, you will get a link, and you can see here, you can copy that link and send that out on an email. So you might have a distribution group, or you might post that to a social channel. So for maybe some of our older sections, you can share that on Facebook, etc. Or pop it into an email, or you might have a weekly newsletter that you might put together. So you set up your weekly meetings, and in that newsletter, have a link to each of the online sectional meetings. Do we have any other questions before we move on to Teams versus live events versus meetings? Nope.
No, nothing jumping out at this stage, Dave. That was probably the big one for tonight.
No worries at all. So, Teams versus Teams Live. I guess the difference here is as you can see, our producer has full control over the content that we are delivering. So that means that if we want to post video or a PowerPoint slide, then the producer will actually control what's happening, so viewers at home can see what's going on, and essentially not have anybody sort of jump in, or that person that's always not on mute, or getting that Brady Bunch video. So what I might do is I'll just quickly show you how to create a Teams live event. And as you can see here, we've got the new meeting, just down arrow. And instead of going schedule a meeting, we want to schedule a live event. So So I'm going to call this a group ARP because our group has 200 people in it, and our social distancing will only allow 50 people to turn up. And our ARP is on the 12th. You can see here I'm a producer. Now, I need some other producers to help, some presenters to help me. Jared. And
that's a Friday night. I'd like to get back to you on that one.
That's all right, mate. So as you can see here, we're setting up a live event. These are the people that will get invited, and I'll have a slightly different screen to everybody else. The good news is that the presenters that we invite to a live event will have a very similar screen to what they're used to in a Teams meeting. So you might have someone who needs to present an item at this ARP, but might not be comfortable with a change in technology. The good news is that if they've trained up on Microsoft Teams, it'll essentially be no different for them. It's only really the producer. So I'm going to click next. Now you have the option to only invite specific people that are within the organisation. Now, this is very important. If you select this option, this means that you do have to invite the specific person, and they must have an @nsw.scouts.com.au email address. So for an ARP, this isn't really a good option. Organisational wide, again, sign in required. Not the best option at the moment because we've only got about half of our leaders activated. So I'm going to choose the public option, which is what we chose for tonight's Teams live event. I'm going to allow recording. I'm going to record who actually signs up, and I'm going to allow questions and answers, which is what we've done for tonight as well. It's also important to note that Teams live events will not work on the web browser. So if you are a presenter, you must download the Teams app. You'll then, once you've created this live event, you've got the attendee link. And the attendee link, copy to clipboard, that's what you send out to everybody who you want to invite to the event. You can see here, this is a join live event, but this is only sent to the presenters. And you can see here, do not forward this invitation. Okay, so as a presenter, you'll actually get an invitation. Everybody else, you send the attendee link. And then we can close. So once you're in a Teams live event, as I said, as a presenter, not much changes. However, as a producer, you'll get this. Now, what you can see here is a live event that hasn't gone live just yet. As you can see, looking at the top left-hand corner, you can see All Hands CEO Connection is currently 0 attendees, and it's what we call a pre-live state. So before you attended the meeting tonight, all of our presenters and panelists were in this session and we were talking, but nothing went to air. You would have seen the live event hasn't started yet, and that's on the right-hand side. You can see down the bottom as a producer, we have some video content, it's called You, and a sharing of screen content. Now, as you have more presenters, you'll have more options to choose from. And when you click on them, they'll come up on the screen on the left-hand side. You can see that there's a send to live button, and that sends it to the right-hand screen. And when you click start, the event goes live. So whatever you're sharing will go out to the public. So this is the screen that you'll see as a producer. Now, if this is a little bit overwhelming, understand. What I would encourage you to do before you try your first live event is maybe get a few leaders and do some test live events first to get yourself familiarised with the controls. So that way, when you do have an ARP, or it might be potentially a peak award presentation, something where you want to control the look and the feel of the event, a live event would be a really good solution for you. But you just want to get your head around how it works. There's also some great YouTube videos, which I'll send you a link to as well, as far as our how-tos and whatnot. So going over, I guess, that's our, live events. Tonight, we've gone over a little bit of ground. We've gone through our Leader and Committee Hub and the file storage. Now, obviously, the recording will be online, so you might want to skip through and pause where we've made some recommendations there on what files are getting stored in the file structure. We've had a look at working with files in Microsoft Teams. We've also, discussed our Teams updates and gone over a few of the ins and outs of running a Microsoft Teams live event. So there's a bit of content there, and I'm sure there's a few more questions from our panelists.
David?
Yes.
Are you able to demonstrate how you can share your screen? Have you done that already?
Yeah, sure. So let's have a look here. I'm sharing my screen at the moment. There's Jared. Hello. Sorry about that. So you can see here when you move your mouse around, you will get you'll get this little bar that comes up. Now, yours will look a little bit different. Sorry, Jared. Yours will look a little bit different on a Microsoft Teams live meeting, because this is a live meeting that's telling me that I'm live and it's recording, so you won't get that there. What you will get is you turn your camera off, your ability to mute live, and you've got this sharing or stop sharing. So all you need to do is click on that button and it will start sharing. Now, when you do that, I won't hit the stop sharing, but when you do that, what will come up is it will actually ask you which monitor or which application you want to share. So for me tonight, I'm actually sharing one of my monitors, which just happens to be this. But all you need to do is just click that little box there. It will actually have an up arrow. And that's telling me that I'm low on bandwidth again. And just before, because I couldn't find the screen, the three little dots, if you click on that and show background effects, that's how you change your background. Here we go. And we can see I'm going to change to Mario Kart. I'm just going to apply that there. There we go. We've got Mario Kart. And I might just change that back. Excellent. So that is how you change your background and also do a screen share. We got any other questions from the panelists?
Yes, there was a question about what scenario might we as leaders use a live event as opposed to a Teams meeting?
Yeah, sure. So if you think about a Teams meeting, everybody is able to interact, okay? So with your Microsoft Teams meeting, you might have, at the moment, can have up to 9 video feeds. And basically the way that works is whoever makes a noise, their video will pop up. So participants can unmute themselves. Anybody can share content, and whatever's shared will just go straight to the screen. That's really good in a collaborative environment. So a weekly hall meeting, a unit council, any meeting where collaboration is required. A Microsoft Teams live event is where you want 100% control over what goes out to the viewers. So that might be a presentation or training like we're doing tonight. It could be an ARP where people are delivering their reports, and whilst you need a level of interaction, you can use the Q&A panel to be able to do that. You might also want to broadcast a peak award. So someone getting potentially their Grey Wolf or an ASM, Queen Scout, where you want control over that content. You could use a Microsoft Teams live event to broadcast it, as opposed to a Microsoft Teams meeting, which is all about collaboration. So broadcast live events, if you've noticed, I've used the word broadcasting a few times. That's the direction that Microsoft is taking Microsoft Teams live events, is where you want to broadcast your content with little interaction with your audience. And it also means that you can essentially, on a public event, send out the link and anybody can join. So hopefully that answers that question. We got any more from the panel?
So many here, David. We're just typing away madly.
That's all right. It's usually like that.
There is one here, David, about any way to integrate the schedule from Planner with the Teams and Outlook calendars.
Any way to integrate the schedule, Teams and Planner? That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest with you. I think if you assign a task, it should come through in Outlook, but we might have to park that one for the moment so I can have a look at the latest release updates to make sure that integrates, because I know that some of the applications do and some of them don't. So I'll have to have a look at the feature release for that particular one. I had a question here. I can see a question. How would a district or region leader go about accessing the leader and committee hub if the group leader leaves or is unable? So based on the permissions, if you have a district or regional leader's appointment, an appropriate regional leader's appointment, you will inherit access to the leader and committee hubs of your region. So you should have access and be able to help that group out if required. I've got that question there. All right. Is there any other questions before we might call it a night?
I think there was a question that I'm looking at here, and there was someone asking, so for Teams live event, do they actually have to download the app?
Yes. So unfortunately, a Teams live event, to be a presenter or a producer, so only those two, presenter or producer, you must do it from the Teams live event. You cannot present or produce from your mobile phone or from the web app. So if you missed that session on how to download the Teams app, it's quite easy. What I might do is just bring it up Portal. So of course we know to go to portal.office.com. And because I'm already logged in, it won't challenge me for a username and password. We click on Teams. Now, if you're just using your virtual Scout halls and interacting with files like we've demonstrated tonight, you do not need to download the Teams app, okay? But if you do want to make use of Microsoft Teams live events, then you will need to go through this process, which is going to the portal, clicking on the Teams icon. It'll take a little bit to load. And as you can see here, just that little icon. Just that little icon there. So if you do click on that, Teams, and you just hit run. Now, of course, I won't hit run because I've already got Teams installed. But when you click on that icon, hit run, and it will go and install for you. One of the things that I have, little tip, if you have got Microsoft Teams installed, one of the things you will need to do, hello Jared again, is just click on your little face and hit settings. All right. And for those people who get a little bit annoyed when it's, you start your computer up and Teams starts up straight away, just don't auto start the application. So just untick that and Teams won't start up each time your computer starts up. So if you get prompted and you don't really want Teams starting up all the time, just unclick that. But if you do, just leave it done. Excellent. All right, I think we've got a few minutes left, so maybe time for one more question.
Oh, we've got a really good question here, David. And it's in regards to recording a meeting. So if you're recording a meeting, does it automatically upload, and where can you get to it, and how do you remove it if you do it by accident? So can you show us that?
Yeah, sure. So recordings, now I haven't recorded anything in this particular tenant, so I might not be able to show you exactly where.
There'll still be stuff in there though.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. You just won't be able to remove anything.
Yeah, so with your recordings, there is an application called Stream. Oops. And it is there. I haven't got anything in my particular watch list.
Yeah, you have to go to the web version, Dave, and go in that way to see it.
And go to the website. Hello. So we've got, this is Microsoft Stream. There's a few channels there. Let's have a look.
So if it was your video and you've recorded the meeting, it would be in the My Content section, Dave. So just from that. And then it would just be in that Videos tab at the top.
There we go. It's a very flattering photo of me.
So you actually have recorded something when we were doing our first little demo. So there's one in there. And then on the right there, using that pencil icon, you should be able to change all the privacy permissions for the video. So who can see it? And because we were all invited to that meeting, everyone that was invited to the meeting by default will be able to see the recording.
Now, this is really important, isn't it, Lewis, around the permissions of your recordings, because you really do make sure that you manage this with every video that you create.
Yeah, so for nearly 99% of our videos, we won't be ticking that top box. So that means that anyone in Scouts New South Wales can see our video. And so most, if not all of our videos, generally wouldn't have that box ticked.
Yeah. So basically you only really want it to be available for people within your group.
Yeah, or the people that were in the meeting. By default will automatically there, but say, see there we can create a channel. So if you have your Cub pack or your Joey unit or your Cub unit, you can create a channel for all your recordings to go in, and then you can set up a stream tab in Teams for all your various different meeting recordings that way. So it is a little bit of a different way to do it, but you can organize and keep it all together, similar to like a YouTube channel. And then once Dave's done this, so it's selected just to a group rather than a company-wide channel. And then we can add an image for the logo. And from there, we can then upload multiple different videos in there, whether it's saved on our computer or whether it's just a recording. It is a bit finicky trying to find people sometimes as well.
Just trying to find the right group here. That's all right. A group that you...
I think you might have to type Teams first.
Yeah, that's right.
There we go.
Alt.
Just try the top one.
Yeah. And create.
And now that will flow back to everyone that's in that team in Teams themselves. We'll be able to see it as well. So we won't have to individually go in and add people, so to speak. But the good thing is that they're not an owner of the video. Dave's the owner of the video. So it makes it really easy. They can just see it, but they can't edit anything to do with the video.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Lewis said, don't tick that button.
Yeah, and if you do need to delete the video, top right there, and that'll delete the video to get rid of it for everyone.
Yeah, very good. So I might delete that one. And it's now gone. Very good.
So David, I have one question that's come through.
Yes.
For a Teams live event, can a non-Scouts domain email be made a presenter?
Yes. So providing that email address is associated like with they've got a Teams app. Okay. So I quite often, when I do a Teams live event here and I have to be the producer, I will use my work email address and its team and a Teams app to be the producer, and then the Scouts email address and Teams app to be the presenter. But both of those accounts are Office 365 accounts. So what you would need to do is, if they weren't an Office 365 account, you would need to invite them in as a guest to the Teams tenant, and then they're able to be a presenter. So it's quite critical that each presenter is using a Microsoft Teams application and they can log in and use that. Otherwise, they will not be able to be a presenter. Very good. All right. Well, I think we're pretty much out of time. So, look, if you do have more questions, we're more than happy to answer them. It takes a little bit of time, but please send through your questions on the Q&A panel, or any support requests through to the email address or the website on the screen. If you are interested in little short how-to videos on Microsoft Teams, including live events, the shortened URL link on the screen is also able to point you in the right direction for the official Microsoft Teams videos. So thanks very much. Look, this was the last Tech Talk out of a 4-part series. So from behalf of myself and the team, thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next time.